Hello, y'all. How you doing? This is Darryl Berry Jr. back to work on our stream. Finish the review that I've been doing on the Flatliners, Flatlined uh, documentary, an amazing documentary that was made by Veritas on the Flat Earthers. So I think it's an awesome documentary. Interestingly enough, on the documentary, if you look at the comments, there's a flat earther who said that, oh, there's no major flat earthers there, and Witsit is not there. And interestingly, I just had a chat with somebody who said the same thing. So apparently, people are going around saying, "I just have these flat earthers who are not relevant and not real flat earthers and stuff." And typical of the flat earthers, they accuse us of just believing science, what scientists say, and not doing any research. But that's exactly what they do. It's quite interesting. So going through this documentary, of course, he mentions that, and he mentions several of the uh, characteristics that the flat earthers have quite succinctly. So make sure that you like and subscribe to my channel. If anybody is interested in any kind of tutoring or something, remember that I have tutoring available. Let me share my links for that. Let's see here. Boom. So there's my STEM site. You can go there to sign up for tutoring, and I may have my book and other things just scrolling through as we go. And so the plan today is to continue reviewing the documentary. We didn't get too far into it last time, and it's not really my intention to rush through the whole thing. I just want to take my time, and I guess it's mostly about my commentary on it than the actual documentary itself. But of course, we'll be looking at the documentary and commenting on it. I do have a Discord channel. I'll link that in the live chat. And if anybody wants to discuss anything with me, you join the Discord. And I'm not in the voice there right now, but I'll be keeping an eye on it. And if anybody does join, I'll go ahead and hop in voice, and we can talk and put a hold on the documentary because I'll probably be months talking about this documentary bit by bit, so I'm not in a rush. So you're a flat earther, and you think that whatever you think, they didn't really have real flat earthers, even though so for everybody I heard say that just must not have watched it and just believe what people said, or you believe things are taken out of context, or whatever it is you think is going on with the documentary, or if you just want to talk about flat Earth in general, or what's going on with flat Earth. Just let me know. You can hop on. We can talk about it, see what's going on. But for now, I'll go ahead and start playing from where I left off last time. So here we go. Oh, and I checked the sound, so the sound shouldn't be too loud, but I'll be monitoring it. If somebody's watching, just make sure that you put into the live chat if uh, the sound of the video is too low or too loud, and I'll try to address it during the stream and not have to re-upload the video. As far as I can tell, everything is fine. I checked it before I got on. Just have to turn the stream volume down a bit. So here we go.
Conceptually, the introduction of the idea that the Earth is flat is at odds with just about all of the knowledge that the scientific community has accumulated when it comes to the nature of our universe. But that's, of course, kind of a problem, right? People, individuals, the average everyday layman are not exactly members of the scientific community. After high school, other than what we hear on the news, most of us don't think about science at all, and if we do, it's usually some caricature of it. Doctors in lab coats with test tubes, cloning farm animals, and putting some hair in a DNA decoding machine to figure out who the murderer was. Most of us have forgotten most of what we learned in school about the history and philosophy of science. Everything we hear in the media remotely tangential to science is needlessly dramatized, over-sensationalized, and egregiously politicized. Forget about scientists trying to expand human knowledge and understanding, attempting to answer the fundamental questions about the nature of our universe. No. It's all about profit or promoting some agenda. In the minds of the masses, science is inseparable from politics. Every conversation we see on any remotely contentious science adjacent topic always has a quote unquote expert on both sides, giving the appearance of a debate that's evenly split right down the middle. Now, naturally, what you should believe about that subject is determined not by the evidence, but rather by your political affiliation. A world where the truth is decided democratically. This is a dystopian view of the world that feels like it's becoming more of a reality every day. We are entirely out of touch with what's going on in modern science, the bleeding edge, and are so far removed from whatever the nebulous concept of scientific consensus says on any particular topic that it feels impossible to know what's true and what's propaganda anymore. A serious problem exacerbated by the popular media. Professor Dave explains this wonderfully.
The way science news is reported today is absolutely abysmal because of clickbait culture. What happens is that headlines typically fall into one of two categories. It's either, we just found out that everything we know about physics is wrong, or we just found out that there definitely are parallel universes and we can probably go there. The first variety is always a complete lie, and for people who read the headline but not the story to get some context, which is almost everyone quite frankly, it produces the sentiment that science is hopelessly uncertain, being constantly torn down and rebuilt anew, therefore it can never be trusted. This is very dangerous. And the second variety is also a lie, or at least a misrepresentation of experimental results. It produces a blind trust in science to solve all of our problems, which in my opinion is nowhere near as serious or rampant a problem as the baseless distrust, but is still illusory. Sensation.
Now, I find, and I'll tell a little bit more of this little part, but once he finishes this part, I have some interesting anecdotes about
Journalist
this topic.
reporting of science news, no matter which way it leans, is destroying public perception of science. But the blame is with the media outlets, not with the scientists.
So one thing that comes to mind when thinking about this, I remember there was a big thing amongst flat earthers a few years ago where apparently there was this article, and it take long for me to find the article, where it was saying that the moon is in the Earth's atmosphere. Let's see if I can find it. All right, here's one. So I'll share this page real fast. Right. So this is the moon is inside Earth's atmosphere, European researchers say. Now, typical of flat Earth scholarship, if it could be called that, um, I've run into flat earthers who would look at this and then it becomes the gotcha. Like, is the Earth in the moon's atmosphere? Is the moon in the Earth's atmosphere? And then, of course, it's like, no, because when they ask that, you think airplanes or hot air balloons or something. Well, no, what scientist says it is. When the fact is, and let's see if we could find it in this article. So it says the moon is inside Earth's atmosphere. Scientists examined data from 20 years ago to reach a startling new conclusion. Uh, Earth has a hydrogen envelope as part of its outer atmosphere called the geocorona. The geocorona stretches past the moon. So let's see how dense this is. The outer part of the Earth's atmosphere. Geocorona, the hydrogen envelope, is wraps around the planet extends 341,000 miles away, 50 times Earth's atmosphere. Right. So now we're looking at the geocorona. So it says Earth's geocorona from Earth's moon, an ultraviolet picture taken in 1972 with a camera operated by Apollo 16 astronauts on the moon. So ironically, if they uh, want to use this idea, and of course now they seem to have this sort of ironic idea. I think it came from Witness about a hostile witness, where they think they could just, point out this one little thing about something science says and then throw everything else. If they accept this thing, then they have to also accept that the astronauts were on the moon and took a picture of the Earth from outer space, and the Earth is a globe as it shows in this picture, or else, because that's part of the evidence behind this idea that this geocorona extends. But in one of the articles I found, it actually talked about the density. And if you look at this, it's like a light hazy cloud. Looks like they don't mention it in this article. But one of the articles I found, they talked about the fact that it was like only so many particles per, you know, square meter or whatever. It's like a very thin haze of atoms, that they found stretching out. It's kind of like if you were taking a bath, right? And if you take a half bath and steam fills up the room, and if you was to say like the water from the tub, includes the mirror, it was like, well, that's not quite true. I mean, you could certainly say that the water in the tub is emitting steam and the steam is fogging up the mirror, but that's not to say that the mirror is in a bathtub, right? But the flat earthers try to use it in that way, like some kind of gotcha. Oh, now y'all saying the moon is in the Earth's atmosphere, and it clearly is not in the way that they frame it. But it points out two very important things. One, it points out that this tendency that he's talking about of scientists to
Now, here's the
support a sort of sensationalist view of science. So basically, the idea like the moon is in Earth's atmosphere. It's kind of like, oh, everything we knew was wrong. It's in Earth's atmosphere, which is how I just take it. And also, it points to the uh, their tendency to try to pick out partial things. Like they'll say, oh, the moon is in Earth's atmosphere. They want to use that, but they want to acknowledge the image that showed the astronaut took a picture of the geocorona that they're talking about from uh, you know from space, from the moon. So it's kind of like you can't really accept one without the other, but they always want to like pick and choose. So, but suffice it to say that it seems that they were a bit more. And I understand. I mean, to some extent, you can understand because how much detail can you put into a general article? I mean, right now I'm a senior in physics and astronomy. I'm definitely not an expert, but I'm sure I have more understanding than the average, non-scientific public person who's, never going to college or who's majoring in some kind of studies or something. Um, but still, when I read a scientific paper, most of it I can't understand. So, you know, an article for the general public, how much can you really put in it? That's have some detail, but at the same time, perhaps they can put a little bit more detail where it doesn't, where it can't be easily misconstrued to think like we're saying the moon is in Earth's atmosphere like an airplane is in Earth's atmosphere. Like when the person asked me that gotcha question, the way the question was framed, that's what you think of, like an airplane. But again, there's nothing you can do to account for the dishonesty of flat earthers. So, I mean, to a certain extent, you can't do anything about the gotcha question thing. But it certainly fuels that to have articles like this when in truth they're talking about, this little haze out there, not the actual relatively thick atmosphere, that's a little thin atmosphere right close to there. That's something that's totally different. So let's go back to the documentary.
Which, in my opinion, is nowhere near as serious or rampant a problem as the baseless distrust, but is still illusory. Sensationalist reporting of science news, no matter which way it media.
Science may or may not be true for some scientific topics, but those are for another video. Today, we're talking about the not be true. Now, here's the thing. This political view of science may or may not be true for some scientific topics, but those are for another video. Today, we're talking about the shape of the Earth. And although I opened up this video talking about how much I love watching debates about it, I hope it goes without saying that there is, of course, no real debate about the nature of our planet, moon, sun, or solar system. Literally nobody whose opinion really matters on the subject. Not the politicians you vote for, not the celebrities you watch, or the influencers that you follow, but the actual scientists who are educated on these subjects and are working in the relevant fields of science and engineering. None of them are actually debating any of this. There's no question, controversy, or drama about the shape of the Earth in the scientific community. This is precisely why the scientific debates about the shape of the Earth aren't going on in academia or in the scientific literature, where actual controversial paradigm-shifting cutting-edge scientific research and discourse happens, and instead between random non-scientists on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. So how the hell could any serious person actually have the hubris to believe that, despite not having any actual scientific expertise, that they
The
know
way
better?
earlier, if you look at my videos, I did a stream earlier where I shared uh, my repeat of the Eratosthenes experiment where I measured, and I also shared the flat Earth comparison. I believe the video is called "Sharing My Earth Measurement and Flat Earth Comparison." And I mentioned a guy who had a debate with Witsit who pointed out that little model that some of them try to point to, the Breslin model, whatever, of the little flat Earth, how the light bends, how erroneous that is. This is the guy right there, Globy Big Globe Face. He's the one who had Witsit pull up that little model and say, okay, let's pick some key points on the globe. At least I remember, I believe he's the one. So now I'll say he's the one. I mean, I guess I still can't be 100% sure because it's been a while since I saw that video. But when I see him, he's the one who it seems to be. But, let me know if he's not the actual one, then I could make in another video, I could show whoever it is actually. But suffice it to say, I think it was him who pointed out the discrepancy, how if you pick certain places on the globe with that model, light is literally making like a 90-degree turn to, I guess you could say a 180-degree turn to come back to meet people's eyes, depending on, from this part of the earth, you can look directly at the Southern Cross or whatever coming from that direction. But on a flat Earth map, it'll be over that way, so the light has to bend at a certain angle for it to have the angle it has in real life. It just doesn't match real life. But y'all could take a look and see if that's the guy.
That they are one of a small few who've cracked the code and figured out the truth. Well, buckle up, folks. We're at the point of no return. If you aren't equipped with a cringe-proof hazmat suit and sufficient facepalm protection, there's no guarantee that you're going to make it through this video unharmed. You've been warned. I've consumed nearly 1,000 hours of
Talk with him, by the way. If you look through my videos, I talk with a lot of these guys. I talked with Witsit. I think he's afraid to talk with me. He mentioned in his video that he could apparently not the chief. I talked with uh, DIQRH. That video is on my channel.
flat unharmed. Suit and sufficient facepalm
This guy
protection.
right
There's
here.
no
A
guarantee
lot of
that you're
the
going to
ones
make
I
it through
talked
this
to.
video unharmed. You've been warned. I've consumed nearly 1,000 hours of flat Earth content in the last 6 months. Hundreds of discussions had in bad faith, debates gone off the rails, and documentaries that were, well, frankly, just bad. And I believe I have, for all intents and purposes, heard it all. While the entirety of the Flat Earth movement has been built upon a foundation of absurd claims, laughable contradictions, and embarrassing misconceptions, it's become painfully clear that the uncountably large number of issues with that worldview that caused them to come to the wrong conclusion about the shape of the Earth are really just symptoms of the same 4 fundamental flaws.
Find this to be very accurate. Let's look back at this part. I'll mute it briefly. We could try to see some of the things he's saying they don't understand. Speed, relativity, how they did that relativity replaced Newtonian gravity. Uh, Einstein, take his quotes out of context. The sun, yeah, apparently some of them say it's electric. That's what DITRH said. He said something like it's electric, or I don't remember exactly. It's some kind of ephemeral thing. It seemed like he was trying to say it's not some kind of definite thing. So then, of course, you could just say it's whatever you want and make that light come from wherever you want to try to make it work on a flat Earth. Of course, we know it's a very definite thing from astronomy. From the light, you can measure the light from it. We could do spectroscopy and see the uh, uh, elements that are in it. The moon. We talked about solar eclipses before. They try to say this is Rahu, K2, all this kind of nonsense. Uh, NASA, there was one that I missed, but they'll go on. Now, the fact is, I mean, I could point out some things myself that I found that the government lied about. That doesn't mean that everything NASA says is a lie or anything they say is a lie. As a matter of fact, NASA is manned by scientists who do real science. Is that to say they never lie? It's irrelevant because everything that's scientific, we could investigate for ourselves. You know, we could study the moon, we could study the sun, we could study the phases of the moon and the you know, we could study astronomy and nature and everything, and if they're lying about stuff, then simply point out the evidence. So far, all we get is this. Flat earthers don't understand, and they point to their misunderstanding, thinking that it debunks something. Unless somebody wants to come on and let me know how I'm wrong about that. Space, of course, a lot of them say space doesn't exist and there's a dome. But then, of course, some of them say there's an infinite plane. I mean, they don't really know themselves. But of course, we know that space is there. We have people out in space. People went to the moon. We have pictures from space and so on and so forth. They could say it's fake, but I never. The most I've seen them do is try to point out a little pixel that has a glitch and a screen and say, "Oh, look, it's fake." But there's no real evidence that it's fake. Like, you know, if somebody has a counterfeit dollar bill, how you could chemically examine it and see the ink is fake, or judicially examine it and see that the printing is not quite right. You know, there's nothing like that. It's just sort of just claims that they make. Sunsets, of course, they try to claim that the sun. Sometimes they say the sun disappears in the sky, and of course we could look with a solar filter and see that's not true. Sometimes they try to say that the sun, uh, uh, what it's perspective and it's going away, but it seems to go down. They don't really have anything definite. Which ironically they use as a defense. Like today when I did the little sharing of my measurement of the circumference of the Earth, one of the flat earthers there said, "Oh, when I gave my comparison about the flat Earth, one of them said, oh well, there is no flat Earth model, so how can you be doing it on the flat Earth?" As if it's a protection. We don't have a flat Earth model, so aha, so now you can't disprove it. But you know, simply put, flat earthers say the Earth is flat, so you could do it on a flat surface. And I've never seen any denial about the fact that there's a North Pole. So I simply worked my distances from the North Pole. My distance from the North Pole, the distance from the North Pole to the Sun, given that we know it was over the subsolar point at so many thousands of miles away, and there you go. We could go ahead and do some math on that, which just proves that the Earth is flat. So it's pretty easy to do. Electromagnetism that deals with light. Of course, you hear them talking about light doing crazy things when it needed to. You know, if light does what we know it does, which is just go in a straight line unless it's acted upon something, now they can't make this personal dome of vision or whatever the nonsense they do. So they obviously don't have an understanding, a basic understanding of electromagnetism, which includes light. Theories versus laws. Of course, you know, flat earthers will say, oh, gravity is just a theory. There's something they made up. Of course, they don't understand these things. Uh, Buoyancy. Of course, some of them said that buoyancy and density is what's behind gravity. But those of us with even a cursory understanding of science know that buoyancy is from gravity. You know, pushing water down, just like how uh, you know the air is pushed down by gravity and buoys a balloon up because it has helium in it. Entropy. Oh my gosh, that's a whole topic in itself. When the flat earthers say that the second law of thermodynamics says we can't have an atmosphere. I've taken a modern physics class, and we had to one third of the course was in thermodynamics, and surely these people have no idea what thermodynamics and entropy is about. Also, they talk about entropy in chemistry. It's incumbent upon a physics major to take chemistry, so I have to take 2 semesters of chemistry. And there's an entire section in chemistry on thermodynamics because it deals with you know the PV equals nRT. I forget the name of the law, but the noble gas law, whatever the name is, but PV equals nRT is etched in my brain. And all of that stuff deals with thermodynamics and entropy, and we have to go into that. So these people have no clue, and there's nothing in entropy that says we can't have an atmosphere. Thinking about it, you know what? I don't think that talk. I'm gonna have to find that talk. I had a talk with QE years ago, and it's clear he doesn't understand either. He was talking about thermodynamics and stuff like that. He couldn't answer the most basic questions about thermodynamics. He couldn't even define the word, similar to what conspiracy cats did with Nathan Thompson in that debate. So these people have no clue. I'll try to find that talk that I had with QE so I can post it, but I'll have to look through and see where it's at. Cosmology, of course, geometry, and it seems like they're trying to learn a little bit of math, but still, they have to just twist it and distort it to. But it reminds me, you will see it in this video how one of the common tricks, not even a trick, just a basic question. I mean, it's a trick because we know they can't answer it. But they'll ask them, if you have a triangle with sides 1, 1, and 1, what's the internal angle? And you can see all the oddball answers the flat earthers try to give. They literally have no clue about basics of math and stuff. Cameras, talked about that in my little talk earlier, because if one of the things I noticed that flat earthers divorce from the discussion, which I think we need to start including more of, is they have all of these wild ideas about how things work that supposedly debunk science, but all of our technology is based upon the technology is based upon modern science, right? So if you say light does these crazy things and that's not taken into account when we build a camera or when we fashion eyeglasses, and things like that, or you say entropy is this, but that's not taken into account when we build an engine or a power plant, obviously you have no idea what you're talking about. The people who utilize their understanding of thermodynamics to make the power plant that's powering this room obviously have more understanding about thermodynamics than just the person who believes the earth is flat, talking online. It makes no sense. So we have to bring into the discussion the fact that even though they claim scientists are just making stuff up, the things that are in science books that you learn in school have real world implications, in powers, in power, in architecture, in engineering. Buildings are made with the understanding of gravity. Cameras are made with the understanding of light. Power plants are made with the understanding of thermodynamics. So the people who are saying that all of this are wrong will need to either point out how these things are really working, because apparently all the textbooks are lying, and all the people who get their degrees in engineering and physics really learned to lie. So some kind of way in between the day they graduate college and the day they get the job at building a nuclear power plant, they must learn the real thermodynamics, which none of the flat earthers pointed out. Well, the flat earthers are just wrong. And of course, we know what the answer is. Models, yeah, hypotheses, all of this stuff. I'll let it go on.
Here's a map of ancient Egypt. I've inserted 2 sticks or obelisks.
Before the Eratosthenes experiment that I did myself, ironically, that was discussed in my like the introductory class, like at the first level astronomy class. These are the first one people take unless they don't have any science. And there's like a few level ones that you can take that like get you to that point. But the stuff that flat earthers are clueless about, like just the beginning level college student in science learns and understands this thing and can do this math and science. It's amazing how behind they are while thinking that they know everything.
One up here in Alexandria and one down here in Syene. Now, if at a certain moment each stick casts no shadow at all, that's perfectly easy to understand, provided the Earth is flat. If the shadow at Syene is at a certain length, and the shadow at Alexandria is the same length, that also makes sense on a flat Earth. But how could it be, Eratosthenes asked, that at the same instant there was no shadow at Syene and a very substantial shadow at Alexandria?
Okay, one last.
I'll point out here, by the way, especially since flat earthers like to, some of them dishonestly, I might add, dishonestly try to misconstrue words in this. There is a video where Neil deGrasse Tyson said that with 2 sticks, it'll be it could possibly occur on a flat earth or a globe. And flat earthers like to extract that little line and say, oh, But what he says in the same video, it's only like a short 4 or 5 minute video. You can just put it in the chat. I could find it for you if somebody's having difficulty finding it. But like in the same video, like 30 seconds later, he says with 3 sticks, it only worked on the globe because once you add the third stick, the angles no longer match with a single position of the sun. And like I mentioned in the little presentation I did earlier, there's a group of people, like 20 of them, that did this experiment at different locations, and they found that the height of the sun would be different for all these different people. But if you put all those people on the globe, then it all matched perfectly pointing to the sun. And I'm certain if somebody has the link, please put it in the live chat. I'm certain I remember seeing MC Toon did this experiment. It wasn't with 20 people. I think it was like 4 or 5 people. But MC Toon and a group of people did this experiment, and they found the same thing. On the flat plane, if you get 3 or more people, the height of the sun would have to be different for each one. And I'm sure that it would change throughout the day or something. It's not consistent, generally speaking, but definitely at that moment all the height is different for different people. But when they model that measurement and all the angles on the globe, then it matches perfectly with everybody looking straight at the sun with nearly parallel rays coming from a very far, large sun, which we can see the size of the sun from the angular size of the sky. And we know the distance of the sun because we launch radar at it, just like how we launch radar at airplanes and we know how far they are. So we know the sun is 93 million miles away. I've done this math myself, given that distance and the angular distance of the sun, and we can see how big it is and see that it all works out. So it's pretty simple. Matter of fact, if you go to my website, the link that I put in that video where I talk about my doing this experiment, I'm pretty sure on my Earth measurement page, I put the calculation that I did of the size of the sun, given the distance from radar and the angular size in the sky. I'm pretty sure I have that there. Just check and see.
Substantial shadow at Alexandria.
Okay, one last time. These are small, but the ones out there are far away. Small, far away. Forget it.
Have you dreamed of getting your pilot license and soaring through the sky? Introducing Private Pilot Made Easy.
The scale of our universe is unfathomable, incomprehensible, inscrutable. Understanding the number of members in our tribe, the total number of arrows that we can carry, and how many of a thing we can eat, those numbers confer a survival advantage. For our ancestors, quantities much larger than this served no practical purpose. Humans simply did not evolve the ability to wrap our minds around large numbers.
I wouldn't say it's unfathomable, by the way, because it's being fathomed right now with this illustration, but I guess that's just a little bit hyperbole. Sort of like the fantastical reporting you talked about earlier, so you probably should watch it.
Grasp the scale of things beyond our everyday experience. Now, so many of the foundational arguments that are put forth by flat earthers, intentional or not, exploit this fundamental limitation in human cognition, and almost always come in the form of a question.
Where is the curve?
One of the most common flat earth talking points begins with bringing up photos or videos from out in the desert, up on a mountain, over the ocean, from high altitude balloons, literally anywhere and everywhere, asking why can't they see the curve? Now, while this is a fair question that anybody seriously looking into this topic could reasonably ask, the unfortunate truth is that for flat earthers taking part in the conversation, this is where any semblance of fairness and reason begins and ends. What you'll find almost immediately is that they're both unwilling and unable to take the next step that anyone looking to continue the conversation in good faith absolutely needs to take, to entertain the question of exactly how much curve should we actually expect to see.
I'm not sure what you're getting at, because
I've had the same experience. I know somebody who is a flat earther personally. You know, like I knew him before he became a flat earther. Surely people can't really believe the earth is flat. And he definitely believed it. And that was one of his things. He said that building should be leaning away, and that's how he knows the earth is flat. He could not even do the math to even calculate how far buildings should be leaning away, and he didn't know. He just somehow knew it should be leaning. So that's pretty accurate how flat earth is of course, for flat earthers, the question to them, they ask a question about something, and to them, they're disproving something. You know, I, I don't really know if it's somebody implementing and spreading this poor way of thinking, or if it's just a part of being very ignorant and very unscientifically literate that people just automatically start to think that way, just thinking that if I ask a question about something, I'll disprove something. It's amazing. It brings to mind one of the times I was talking with a friend and he was doing this. Let me ask a question thing, so that means I disprove something because I asked you a question about it. There was a SpaceX stream going on of the launch, or maybe we was watching a video of a launch. Either way, and he was saying, "Oh well, it's supposed to be in outer space. Where the light coming from?" And it was like a sort of gotcha question. But I asked him, "Okay, if they're in space, where would the light be coming from?" And he got quiet and thought for a moment. And I was like, "Oh well, the sun." And sure enough, the rocket was on the side of the moon where you could see the Earth in the back, and the Earth was lit. So obviously, we're on the side of the Earth where the sun is. But apparently, he didn't even think about it. He's intelligent enough to think about it because I didn't tell him the answer. But he just didn't. He was just unwilling to think about it because he convinced himself that just apparently there's anything he could think about without thinking critically about it, that he can ask a question about something, you disprove something. It's amazing. But flat earthers are trained at poor thinking or not thinking. It's amazing.
We actually expect to see.
I'm not sure what you're getting at, because that right there.
You can't test to see if the Earth is a globe if you can't actually calculate the what you should or should not see on a globe. So how do we calculate what should or should not be seen on the globe if you don't have any of the details of it? How do you know this is not possible on a globe?
There's never been curve proven on the y-axis.
Okay, how do we know what is supposed to be seen on the globe? Did you do that?
Supposed to be,
did you calculate the consequences of that?
Because they're supposed to be curved.
How much?
Where's the curve?
How much curve should you see?
At least some.
Without fail, flat earthers run into two fundamental problems here. Firstly, they're always missing some or all of the crucial factors related to the photo or video evidence in question, the information required for any remotely serious examination like this. Things like the elevation of the camera where the images were captured, or any of the relevant details about the camera itself and the lens that was used when the images were captured.
What was your elevation?
Like I said, it was just me with the tripod, so
okay, I told you. I said if you don't have the details, then it's pointless because we can't even test to see if it should be matching the globe or not.
Now that brings us to their second problem, that even if
one thing that comes to mind when I look at this mountain range, I'll never forget I was on this Discord server for this other flat earth Discord talking now. Hey, what's going on, Will? Welcome. We have one person in the chat. And I put the link for Discord. Feel free to join if you want. We could talk on Discord as well. And but this image here brings to mind I was on this other Discord server, which ended up being quite toxic. So I ended up leaving it. But they knew I was at the time. I would let them know I was working on a book about flat Earth, and they didn't mind me going in there and having some documented conversations with them. And one guy had put this image in the chat. He was trying to convince me of flat Earth, and cool, yeah. Yeah, it might be because Real Cygnus was saying, "Oh yes, I was on Tunes." Real Cygnus was saying he forgot how he subbed me. Yes, I did a dark energy and dark matter talk on MC Tune. And I guess that was either early this year or last year sometime. Yes, and I debated on MDD twice. So it could have been either from MC Tune or from debating on MDD when I crushed Alan and Toby. Me and Tony, PhD Tony, crushed Alan and Toby. And before that, I had a debate where I crushed Wotan. And he was just blatantly lying. It's an interesting one to watch. When I proved him wrong, eventually he just started denying that he even said what he said. But of course, it's on video, so. But I decided to get more active again. A lot of my videos that I had unlisted, I put them listed again. So be sure to check my channel, and you'll see that there's some videos there, other debates I did, talks on various things. Lately, I've been mostly doing Flutter content. There's some out of body content. There's some, of course, America's content as well on different things. But I'll probably be doing a lot of Flutter debunking in the near future, and I plan on doing something like this every Saturday, either reviewing a video or posting a video. Like I posted one early and did a stream earlier, and maybe even having a flat earther talk. Um, I don't know if he's still coming, but somebody was after I did the talk yesterday. One of the flat earthers from that channel was chatting with me, trying to help me. Basically he's like, you seem sincere. Let me give you some videos that can help. Ironically, he linked Shane, who we saw in my debate, the MDD debate, where he was trying to coerce or guide Alan and Toby to get Tony upset rather than debate and to have an honest debate, which I find that tactic to be dishonest. Uh, I find that it makes him a liar. Ironically, flat earthers are so up in arms about NASA saying government lies, but they follow people who do stuff like that. It's quite interesting, the double standard. And you say it can't be too much of what, world sadness? I know there's a bit of lag on the video, so he might have spoke after I said something. What I may do is my next stream, I may turn the lag down some, but I'll see what he says too much of. But suffice it to say, relative to this image, the guy posted an image of a mountain range, and he said, "Oh, that mountain range is 250 miles away, and that's too far to see on the globe." So I was like, "Oh, what's the name of the mountain, and where was it at?" And he didn't know, so said, "Oh, well, let's just say it's 50 miles." So even though he showed the image that said on the image 250 miles, this is too far, he had no clue. He just did what the flat earthers say we do and just believed it. And when he realized he couldn't defend it, he himself contradicted his own image and said, well, let's just say it's 50 miles, trying to say that's still too far. It's amazing. And Real Cognitive said, Shane and Toby, flat earth debunking. Yeah. uh, I just find it pretty fun. So, you know, I'm limited in how much I do of it because I'm still in school, so I have to spend a lot of time studying. Usually, what I try to do is dovetail my studies into what I'm doing. So, like I was saying before in that talk, I did the Veritas experiment because that was actually something we were covering in my astronomy class. So I was able to, fill out my astronomy knowledge with some practical experience, and I was able to get a flat earth debunk at the same time. So usually when I do, like for instance, the talk I did on MDD, excuse me, on MC Toon's channel for dark matter and dark energy, I wrote 2 papers on that. So that semester I was taking the astrophysics course, and we had to write papers in that class. And I chose to write a paper on dark matter and dark energy, and then I made those papers into a talk. So usually what I end up doing is what I'm focusing on, I try to dovetail that in, and that's how I kind of fit it in. But it's definitely not the main thing I'm doing. Uh, I should find it fun, and it's getting some attention. My STEM channel, I do only science. So if you go to my website, there's a there's 3 different sites. In my STEM channel, I focus only on science. So if you go, for people who want just math and science and quantum physics and things like that, those channels I do science on because I don't really want to mix it with flat Earth. And that's part of the reason why this channel is mostly a lot of flat Earth because it's already here and I just let it be here. For my STEM channel, I'll do only STEM. And my next density channel, I'll do only like A Course in Miracles and astral travel stuff and stuff like that. So, but this channel, I kind of do a little bit of everything. But those channels I devote just to those topics. So, I don't have to talk, I don't bring flat earth or anything there. Yep, yeah. I think it was fun. And I think that's part of the reason why Witsit doesn't want to talk to me. He saw what happened with those guys. So we actually have one scheduled. I have a video on the channel with me challenging them. Yeah, it was fun. I'm pretty sure I'll go on again sometime. As long as I'm not too busy with school. I actually already have my presentation made because I was going to go on a month or two ago, but the email said that the flight just pulled out, Witsit and the other guy. So I had the presentation made, so whenever they call me, even if I'm really busy at the time, it should be easy enough for me to hop on, and I'll go ahead and debate again. But awesome. This was pointing out how they get their data all wrong. And I'll probably go for another 20 minutes and end at about the top of the hour mark.
Camera itself and the lens that was used when the images were captured.
What was your elevation?
Like I said, it was just me with the tripod. So it's
okay, I told you. I said if you don't have the details, then it's pointless because we can't even test to see if it should be matching the globe or not.
Now that brings us to their second problem, that even if they had the specifics about the images in question, they'd have no goddamn clue what to do with it, because they're entirely...
An interesting thing I wanted to point out, by the way, like looking at this image, one thing I haven't really seen highlighted is, like you matter and somebody who goes to Earth into the globe fussing about an image like this, do they see a curve or do they not see a curve? But one thing you don't see in these images is an ice wall or an infinite plane. I don't think it is even necessary to trouble about how much of a curve we see. Of course, we do see a curve there, but depending on how close the camera is, sometimes it can still look sort of straight. But where's the ice wall? Where's the edge? This picture is clearly of a globe. It's not of some kind of plane with an ice wall at the end.
Ignorant about any and all of the relevant concepts involved in determining just how much curvature we would expect to see in any given situation if we actually did live on a globe.
What do you see? What do you see in the bottom center there? Is your evidence.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see in the bottom center?
No living being should ever eat processed food for every single meal of their life.
That's a pretty long time. Or how you said the documentary brought back some memories. It's pretty good, man. And he touches on most, if not all, the points. The book on flat what I learned about the thinking and stuff like that, and a lot of the things he says I have in there about the way of thinking and the lack of evidence and so on and so forth. So he's pretty good.
Than that,
how did you calculate that? Show me your calculations.
That's not my balloon, so I don't know.
Okay, so don't tell me there should be more curve than that if you didn't do the calculations to know how much curve should be visible with that camera at that elevation.
And what we're ultimately dealing with are real-world applications of scale, perspective, and
soon I'll play.
geometry. The first thing we need to understand is just how large the Earth actually is, to fully grasp the scales that we're dealing with. And one of the best ways to do this is through modeling and simulation.
What's amazing is, by the way, the Earth is, of course, big relative to us, but I believe it was my stellar astronomy class where we learned exoplanets, planets around other stars, and different methods that they use. And one of the biases is a lot of these methods have to do with, of course, seeing the planet in some wavelength. Therefore, it's biased towards larger planets because they're easier to see. Or when one of the methods is seeing when a planet goes in front of its host star, it dims the light, and it can see that cyclical dimming of the light in front of that star and see there's a planet going in front of it, for as an example. So the bigger the planet, the bigger the dimming of light, which means that bigger planets are easier to see. Or even the method of the wobble of the planet, for instance. Like they can look at the star, the wobble of the star, I meant to say, and the planet going around the star, even though the planet is, of course, revolving around the star is actually revolving too. It is a little bit of a wobble around each other, so they're tugging on each other. So there's a little bit of a wobble of the star as the planet goes around it, and you can study the spectrum from the star and see the very light spectral shift, the red shift and blue shift that happens from the planet orbiting the star. So I say all that to say that a lot of the planets that they find around other stars are big. So as big as Earth is, it seems like a lot of planets in the galaxy in the universe is small, and the galaxy is. A lot of the planets are big, but of course, it's biased towards the big ones. So there could be a lot, more small ones, but it is harder to detect. And yes, I am real. I'm a double major. I double major in physics, Bachelor of Physics. I'm getting, and I also major in astronomy. So May of next year, I'll graduate with a Bachelor of Physics and Bachelor of Astronomy degree. I'm a double major. I plan on going to grad school for astronomy because I just find it more fun, more enjoyable. But just in case, I have a good background in straight physics as well. So if I did go to graduate school for physics, it would probably be quantum or particle physics. But ideally, I would go for some kind of astrophysics or astronomy, maybe some kind of spectroscopic type thing. But we'll see. I still have some time to choose that. Yep, and I I actually work at my university. I work as a learning assistant. I help in the classes, so I get to interact with a graduate student during my class and the professors. And currently, even the first few years, you in grad school, you still is sort of general studies to an extent, and you have a little bit of time to choose your specialty. But at this point, it would either be some kind of stellar or particle physics. I do all right. I mean, I'm definitely not the smartest one there. I mean, I have a B average. I mean, this is when I got my associate degrees, I got two summa cum laude associate degrees. But at UT, they say you drop a grade, and it's no joke. It's a tough school. But I do all right. And one semester I made university honors. That means I got a 3.5 that semester. Overall, I'm at like a 3.4 or something. I don't know if I'll be able to maintain it by the time I graduate because the classes are getting harder, and I may even need to work my last year, so I have to see about that. But yeah, I'm doing all right. I have a B average, so I think I'll be able to get into a decent enough graduate school and do well there. I'm also in the McNair program. I'm a McNair scholar, so I'll be doing a research project this year, and they'll be able to help me get into graduate school and get my degree as well. So it's looking promising.
Unfortunately for flat earthers, successfully implementing a model and understanding scale go hand in hand, so that tends to go just about as good as you'd expect. This demonstration from a particularly disgusting flat earther named Democ is the kind of demonstration that you tend to see from flat earthers, and what he's attempting to explain here is, well, I'll let him describe it.
The globe doesn't exist. When you go up in the air in a helicopter, you don't see anything tilting away from you that you couldn't see down into.
What you need to pay attention to is what you can see that's inside the cap. Let's look down inside the cap, Globers. Come on, can we do it? Can we do it? Can we do it? Can we do it?
Rob Parks. I think I heard that name before. I'll be sure to check him out. Maybe I'll type it in now. Get uh, uh, Rob Parks. He's on YouTube. Okay, I see he debated 6 months. Yeah, Professor Parks. Thanks. Check him out. I'll give him a subscribe.
Can we look down? Can we look down inside the cap, Globers? Oh,
Your
a
mic
couple
is so
foot
funny.
off the ground ain't good enough for you. A couple foot off the ball. A couple foot off your globe. That would only be 40 inches, right? 39, whatever. 40.
He can't
40
scale.
inches.
Oof, rough.
Couple off of your globe.
Lucy Toon says he can't scale.
Do you see in there? Do you see in
I'll
the
turn him
lid?
up a little bit.
Hello. Look at this, Lewis. Look at this, Lewis. Max height. Max height. We're in the ISS.
But what's immediately clear to most folks watching this was that the questions that he has related to what anybody would or should see on a round Earth demonstrates that he has a massive misunderstanding.
I had one talk with with Dimmock on the Discord channel I usually frequent now, and he's a master at asking questions, just asking something. And one of the things I find flat earthers do is they keep asking the same questions over and over, even things that's been explained to them in detail. I think part of it is the fact that they don't really want to learn because it'll entail giving up the position they want to hold, and they don't want to let go of these gotchas. They seem to try to want to find somebody who's ignorant of the topic, so then they can pretend like they don't know what we've informed them of and just ask the same question. So one of the things I asked him, he was asking about cosmology type stuff, and I asked him, like I've asked a few of them now, are you aware that there's astronomy books that talk about this in detail? Or are you aware these questions that they ask, like, you know, how does this work or how does that work? As if, like how do novas work? How does something explode over and over? That's explained in detail in astronomy books. I know because again, I'm an astronomy major, and we have to study these things. So if they really wanted to know, they can get in the astronomy book and see it. But I asked him, and he just avoided the question. And he just like started, he's very vulgar, so he just like started going into whatever. It's amazing. But it seems like the people don't want to know. They want to hold on to their ignorance, and their ignorance is a shield and a protection. And Real says, Bob, the science guy is a doctor. I didn't know that. I know he was a pilot. I remember him being a pilot. An old school fat debunker. Yep, I've seen him debate people. I saw Bob go against Caleb, who's another. He's probably even better at asking questions. His defense is asking questions than BMOC. Now, of course, his point is not to learn anything. It's just to keep asking questions, and once Caleb finds something that you can't answer, it's like aha. Even though again, there's experts who wrote books about any of the things that they ask about. And he says has your own par with some UNIs as an amateur astronomer. Okay, interesting. Sharon Rob Beck Astronomy, I think it is. What you remind me of is I remember I'm originally from New Orleans, and sometimes people bring stuff out to the French quarters there to make money. Or sometimes people go out and tap dance, or somebody bring an instrument and play music, and you throw money in the box. And there was this guy out there with a huge telescope. He was charging $5 to look through it. I mean, it was huge, and I was able to zoom in on Saturn through that thing. It was amazing. I mean, Saturn was as big as this monitor is in my view. It couldn't even fit all the way in the viewfinder. It was amazing. Um, that's pretty cool. I've seen some of Bob's stuff, and he's very calm, and he lays down a lot. I remember he was he was on this this Discord server, and he was talking about piloting and pointing out how wrong they are about, one of the buzzword phrases they have is horizon always rises to level. And he was pointing out, he was showing them pilot recordings that it doesn't. And they were saying, oh, you got to talk to a pilot they know. And then he revealed at the end that he is a pilot. And they was stumped.
Of the scales involved. At first, he was talking about being in a helicopter and begins lifting the camera up off the surface of his model, and then later raises the camera up quite a lot higher and starts talking about the International Space Station.
5 more minutes.
Now, the absurdity of what he's attempting to demonstrate here might not be super obvious, so let's take a moment to do some rough estimates of the scales involved here, using what looks like one of those 5-gallon buckets as an initial reference. These buckets are about a foot in diameter, let's say for simplicity's sake 30 centimeters. And it looks like the diameter of this Earth analog is roughly 4 buckets wide, or about 120 centimeters. Now, the diameter of the Earth is about 12,742 kilometers. But to keep it simple for any flat earthers watching, let's round it to 12,000 kilometers, which is the equivalent of 1.2 billion
which I measured myself, by the way.
This means that what we have here is on the order of a 1 to 10 million scale model. Now, plastic bottle caps can range anywhere between 1 and 2 centimeters tall, but again, to keep this simple, let's just say 1.2 centimeters. Now, this means that the bottle cap, if scaled up to the appropriate size for this model, on Earth would be 12 million centimeters tall, or about 120 kilometers, which is 10 times higher than commercial airliners fly and more than a quarter of a way to the orbital height of the International Space Station. For all intents and purposes, to scale, this bottle cap extends from the surface of Earth into space. So the fact that he truly believes what he's attempting to show here is remotely applicable to something like our perspective from a helicopter or even the ISS tells you everything you need to know about how flat earthers struggle to grasp scale.
The time when seasons get warmer, even the
now, MC Toon, one of
helicopter going into outer space thinking he's disproving the globe.
the more prominent members of the flat earth debunking community, who you've seen already a bunch, and you're going to see a lot more in this video.
My background, sometimes people want to know my background. Well, I successfully graduated middle school, so that qualifies me to debunk flat earth.
Attempted to explain this glaring issue to our friend DMOC here, although from his response, I'm not super confident he got the gist.
Show how your ball does.
Hold on, no. Your analog did not show helicopter heights.
Listen, you're talking about something that doesn't exist. There's no analog here, and there's none of that dog shit you're talking about. Get your ball, put your markings on there, and show us what you're talking about. Show us how mine's wrong. The whole point is
that's such a fitting picture for her.
Welcome to
for the attitude of them.
No glober is they're allergic to fucking physics and balls. They'll never touch a globe.
But you don't know anything about physics.
Demonstrate it. Shut up, fat boy.
Dinoc, you don't know any. All right, well, it's got green here, but it's actually a black, a Sharpie. Right.
Orange rice, yellow curve.
All right. Oh, he wants to play colors. That's cute.
Even the flat earth just started muting them out.
Listen to the yapping.
Spectral apocalypator, spectralizer with the rainbow. What kind of gases and planets are in our rainbow that we see right here on our fucking planet? Spectroscopy, boy. You fucking. Why don't you carbon date that rainbow while you're at it and give me the weight of it? And
Carbon
why
date
isn't
the
it pulled
rainbow
down
and give
by
you the weight.
gravity? How did it get up there?
Pulling down the
So which
rainbow by
color
gravity.
weighs more, the bottom color of the rainbow or the top color, fat boy?
You're sweaty, right?
Gosh, they all float down here, fat ass. Spectraloscopize the fucking rainbow, bitch.
Hold on. Spectral. Let's hear that one again. Spectraloscopize. I'm gonna turn them up a little bit.
Rainbow or up there. So which color weighs more, the bottom color of the rainbow or the top color, fat boy?
Oh my gosh,
they all float down here, fat ass. Spectraloscopize the fucking. They all float down here, fat ass. Spectraloscopize the fucking rainbow, bitch. Spectrological fucking aspirations of air colors. You stupid fucking loser, moron, fat boy. Fat boy, do some forensics with the real ball, fat ass. Do you know what forensics are, bitch? Where you touch the shit.
Oh my gosh.
Fat boy, dog boy.
All right.
Do you get glow pox when you touch what a ball looks like?
All right.
Oh my gosh. What does Dimmock do in real life? I mean, I'm lost for words. I mean, he behaves like that all the time. I mean, he can't. I mean, what job can he work at behaving like that? I mean, I don't think, I don't know. It's amazing. And Kyman said, believe it or not, Dimmock sounds and acts almost normal when he's not on about flat Earth. I've seen it a few times on MM Discord, hard to believe it ain't. You know what? You remind me of something. I do remember one time there was the flat earthers were plotting something. A few of them constantly trying to plot, like sometimes they go and seek, pretend that they're curious about something and talk to a NASA scientist or something, with, deceptive, ironically. NASA lies so much with the deceptive in their approaches or whatever. And it was planning whatever thing they're about to try to do to try to, secretly talk to scientists or proselytize or something. And he was talking in a normal way. He was having a normal conversation. So like you said, I have seen him actually talk normally before. But yeah, every time he talks about the flat Earth, and I guess technically that's the only time I've ever seen him talking when he's not talking about flat Earth. So you're right. Yeah, it is possible he can talk normally. So I guess he can go to work and talk like a normal person, and people don't know how absolutely insane his demeanor is when he's talking about flat Earth. Apparently, he's a real scientist. Imagine if that's how he talks when he talks about flat Earth, right? And flat Earth is supposed to be real science. What would a scientific convention look like with DMOC leading it or speaking there? I mean, what would that look like? What is like? There's a Nobel Prize. What if DMOC was right and won the Nobel Prize? Imagine his Nobel Prize speech. I mean, it's comical. But apparently that's the best he can do when he's talking about the globe. Is like it's amazing. It amazes me that flat earthers believe that they have the the truth. And one of the things I've asked them is, what does it say that this is the most you have? Or that's what people in the discourse are. They don't have any inventions, no technology. There's no flat Earth understanding of, even though they claim all this stuff about light and you know dome of azimuthal vision or whatever this nonsense. Uh, there's no technology based upon that. There's no understanding or laws of physics based upon that. The most they have is making a meme and talking on the Discord server. That's it. You know, real scientists designed and built this computer monitor and camera, and they're powering our homes, and they're building and designing cars and airplanes and power plants, and the world is based upon science, and all they have is just these little memes and little Discord servers, and that's the pinnacle. And they believe that they actually have some superior knowledge. It's amazing the psychological disconnect that must be going on up in there. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Super secret special knowledge mode. Engage these in. I'm sorry, yes. As a muscle grid of vision. Yes, I'm making sure I say it accurately for the flat earthers jump on me. See, you don't even understand it. That's why oh my gosh. Like I told him earlier, you know, why don't you give some kind of equation, some kind of evidence or something we could use to test it? Just like how we test our understanding of optics every time we make a pair of glasses or make a camera or make a laser beam or an optical cable. Excuse me, what do they call it? What are those cables that have light going through them? Fiber optics. There you go. When we make a fiber optic cable, and so on and so forth, we test our understanding and demonstrate our understanding of light and electricity and magnetism and all this stuff. They have nothing except just a bunch of words. But awesome. Seems like a good place to end. We're just past the top of the hour. Thank you for joining me, Real Cygnus. I appreciate it. Glad to know you subscribed. I'm sure I'll put something in before then, but if not, I'll be here Saturday or next week around this time again. And either I will do the next part of this, starting at 27 minutes, or I'll review a debate I had or something, or maybe one of the fighters to come talk to me. But there's plan for me to be here at 8 o'clock next week. And Kindness said, I always say, since math isn't real and all, I suppose you'd be okay with little MRI when that lump appears. Exactly. You know, I've seen flat earthers say, oh, math is not real because if you have a pound of sugar and if you have a bunch of sugar and you put it together with a bunch of sugar, it makes it still one pound of sugar. Oh, okay. So that means we can't sell sugar by the pound, right? This is absolute nonsense, you know. If that's the case, right, why don't you just give me that $100 bill since it's just paper, since numbers don't matter? That 100 on there doesn't matter. Let me give you this $1 bill and give me that 100. Yeah. But also, man, good talking to you. I'll look for you next week, if not before then. And everybody who watched, thank you for watching. And I'll see you next time. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Make sure you like and check out my channel for some other videos I've done in the past and more to come. All right, y'all. Y'all be good.